Is Kwesi Adofo-Mensah actually going to, do anything? Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast.
You like that? 3, 1, 2, 3. You like it?
You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast, where we're always trying to learn something new. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I am your host, Luke Braun. You can find the show wherever you find your favorite podcasts, whether it is an audio listening platform like SiriusXM. We're also partnered with them, and you can catch all of the live broadcasts for all the games, including Vikings games, live radio broadcasts on SiriusXM Radio. You can also find the show on Amazon Fire or Roku. Just download the Locked On Minnesota Sports app or just go to YouTube and search out Locked On Vikings. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. And a lot more on PrizePicks later, because today we are doing the PrizePicks prized picks for Monday night's game against the 49ers. We'll also do a little bit of your bold predictions. But because it's a Monday night game, that means that we actually get another podcast, because I'll have one going up Monday morning. So I'll do more of my preview stuff then when I've got a little more time to scout them out, watch some tape. I'll do a Patreon as well. So some stuff to look for over the weekend, and then on Monday I'll have more salient things to say. But that kind of gives us a little bit of time right now to talk about what's going on. I have a more or less avoided trade rumor speculation discussion. I don't think, we try to learn something new every day. I don't think you can really learn anything new from me talking about what so-and-so ESPN person said, or what this player did or didn't like on Instagram. But because we have a moment, and I know people want to know about it, let's just recap some of the Vikings players' situations to see, what they're going to go into. And I think fire sale mode is something that a lot of people have, a lot of journalists have said, oh, it makes sense for them to do this, but they haven't actually had the stones to come out and be like, no, they're thinking about fire sale. Source tells me fire sale. We haven't heard that, right? We've just heard people say, well, I don't know, if I were in charge, I would do it, which is a very different thing to say, right? So instead of that, let's talk about some of the individual players. And especially if you're not a Vikings fan coming in to be like, hey, could my team trade for, so-and-so player or whatever, this might be the show for you. So let's talk first about the big guy, Kirk Cousins, right? A lot of talk about him, maybe the Jets, blah, blah, blah. If you missed it, there was a report from Schefter, I think it was last week, that was basically, it ain't happening. The Vikings aren't interested in moving on from him. Kirk isn't interested in waiving his no trade clause. Right now, there's really no steam on anything, and nobody really has any intention of changing that. He did mention there would have to be extenuating circumstances, and then clarified that those circumstances would have to be a contending team whose quarterback goes down. And okay, then maybe I'll go do that and see if I can't win a Super Bowl. If Mahomes goes down for the year, maybe the Chiefs do something stupid, right? Or I don't know, somebody, if Jalen Hurts goes down and then it's the Eagles or whatever, right? Some kind of situation like that. Then maybe Kirk Cousins would think about it, but that would have to happen now. So we're kind of out of time for something like that to happen. I would put that in the it's about as likely as me winning an Emmy kind of deal. In the philosophical sense, nothing's impossible, but it ain't happening. Similar vibe with Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson has made no indication that he has any intention of leaving. I think people are just speculating because he didn't get a contract done when it's typical for rookies to get guys on their rookie contract going into the fourth year of that, is right when they're eligible in training camp. That's when the deal gets done. It got negotiated quite heavily, but they ultimately didn't come to an agreement and agreed, we're going to put this, we're going to revisit this after the season. What it's worth reminding that the reporting at the time was Justin Jefferson had put an offer on the Vikings table, and the Vikings said, let's table this. This one isn't good enough. We still want to keep negotiating. So Justin Jefferson has in his camp have contracts here it is, I will play for you in Minnesota. And I think people have taken there wasn't a deal And I think it's really easy to forget the part where he wants a deal. And to go, oh, well, he's going to leave because like he doesn't like the quarterback or whatever. That there's no indication that that's remotely true. There's no indication that there's any beef or anything like that. Also, I would say just from a logical standpoint, if you do think the Vikings should go into like full rebuild mode, well, who are they rebuilding around? Somebody that's not in the building yet? Or what about the guy that is? That's not running it back. That's rebuilding it around, recalibrating who your core pieces are and then building around those, right? That is, I mean, rebuild is not re-tear down, right? You're eventually trying to get a good team. Maybe the most interesting one has been Danielle Hunter, who is the subject of trade rumors constantly. Here's the deal. Personally, if I were a betting man, I'd probably say no. But I am not. I'm not a source reporter. This is not. I am a person who's really good at Google, and I listen a lot. All right, so I'm just compiling for you what other people have reported. These are not my journalistic sources. That said, people have been saying maybe Danielle Hunter will get traded since like 2020, and it hasn't happened. So I kind of take all that with a little bit of a grain of salt. But here's what we've had on Danielle Hunter before. So when he was in his little hold-in thing at the beginning of camp waiting for a contract, the idea of a trade was once again kind of floated out in the media by everybody. And the reporting, I think it was Jeremy Fowler at the time, was, yeah, they would, but you'd probably have to send like a second-round pick. And nobody did that. So I'm going to guess that the economics of that are about the same and nobody's going to do that. And it would probably still take something like that. The Vikings don't want to trade him. They don't want to move on from him. Obviously, send 2 first-round picks and you can change our mind. But right now they are not that interested in doing that. And again, that feels like a dumb idea. And I think with all 3 of the players I mentioned so far, I would be much more surprised if they got traded than if they got extended, right? For Justin Jefferson, I still very much expect that to be an extension to happen just after the season, and so does everybody reporting seriously on the situation. Says, yeah, they'll get it done. They're just waiting longer, which honestly behooves Justin Jefferson anyways. And with Kirk Cousins, there was that thing from Jay Glazer last week, or was it this week? Earlier this week, about he still thinks the Vikings want Kirk Cousins back, but he also admits he hasn't really looked into it since camp, where they were actively trying to negotiate an extension. That negotiation, similar to Justin Jefferson's, they basically said, we're just going to table this and talk about it after the year. I think him getting traded is so unbelievably far-fetched. I don't think he's going to get extended either, but like extended is still more likely than traded. Traded would be insane. And I think while I don't think the Vikings will extend Danielle Hunter, I really, really, really want them to. Because look, man, he's going to be 29 in a week and a half. He's currently the league leader in sacks, or tied as the league leader in sacks. And often is the only edge rusher, the only pass rusher worth a damn on the Vikings. Getting rid of him would basically mean we have to sit here and watch quarterbacks never get hit and just dice us up day in and day out, unless, we get a free rusher with the blitz. But with just no talent up front, it gets so hard. And without Danielle Hunter, yeah, we just have no talent up front. Marcus Davenport's on IR. Other than that, it's role players and guys who didn't earn a start. So I am very highly vehemently against the idea of trading Danielle Hunter away. Either let him walk, you're probably going to get a comp pick anyways, or, do the right thing under common law and extend your superstar. A couple other interesting players, some ideas that I had been floated to me that were interesting. I mean, there's the Ezra Cleveland deal, trade him to a tackle needy team. I've seen that everywhere. Ezra Cleveland has not played left tackle since college in 2018. It's been a while. Since Mike Hughes was a rookie. All right. It's been that long. So I don't know about that necessarily, but if he misses this game against the 49ers and then Dalton Reisner has a really good game, maybe they could see, maybe there's a surplus and we trade one of these guards. Maybe that guard is Dalton Reisner, right? We've got 3 good starting quality guards at the trade deadline. Let's try to flip one of them for a 4. And then maybe one other thing. What about like Andrew Booth? Or somebody like Seen, who we haven't really seen a lot of, and now he's buried on the depth chart. Maybe somebody else thinks that they can get more out of him than the Vikings have. That tends to be, it's like a Jalen Reagor trade, that kind of deal. It wouldn't be, beget a lot, right? You're not getting a first-round pick back or anything like that, but it would be some way to sort of make good on redundancies on the roster. I don't think any of that's necessary. I still think the odds-on favorite outcome is that the Vikings don't do anything at the deadline, the NFL trade deadline. It ain't the NBA trade deadline, all right? You will very often come away disappointed. Last year was the only year I can remember in a long time where stuff actually happened. So instead, let's move on to talking about, what is it that Kwesi said? The 5 feet in front of our face. Let's talk about the 49ers, prize picks, bold predictions coming up. Today's episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by Jase Medical, and in particular, their Jase Case, which is a personalized emergency medication kit that has 5 essential antibiotics that could be life-saving in the right situation. Look, we live in a kind of world where we got like supply chain issues, and if you do have some kind of problem that needs an antibiotic like what comes in the Jase Case, what if you can't get that prescription filled? What if you can't get to the store at all? Or what if it just takes, 6 to 8 business days to ship, and then you got to go out? It's at the very least annoying, if not dangerous. So have that stuff on hand, and it is always good to be prepared for the unexpected. You might not think that this is the kind of thing that can happen to you until it does. So head on over to jasemedical.com and enter code LOCKEDON at checkout for a $20 discount on your order. That's promo code LOCKEDON at jasemedical.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel, which is the #1 place in America to go grambling. You can find right now the Vikings are 7-point home underdogs against the San Francisco 49ers. If you think that's too low or too high, you can go to FanDuel.com and bet it. And hey, if you place a $5 bet, if you've never gone to FanDuel before, this is a great time to do it, all right? Go place $5 on that line, whichever way. Or if you don't like that line, go bet on a KJ Osborne touchdown prop or whatever you want. And you get $200 back in bonus bets just for placing that $5 bet. That bet does not have to win. Just place it, and you get $200 back in bonus bets that then you can go scramble on whatever else you want. Other games, other sports, all kinds of crazy, wacky stuff in their props. Go browse the website, and go check back at the website too, because they've got all kinds of cool promos and stuff that just kind of come around seasonally. So keep an eye on all that. Go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn to claim that $200 in bonus bets just for placing a $5 bet. Once again, that's FanDuel.com/LockedOn. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day. And hey, on Friday mornings, why don't you go make sure that you check out the NFL Live show that we have going on here at the Locked On Network. Everybody getting out around and talking about that week's upcoming games, probably a little bit of Thursday night football talk as well, if you would like to enjoy recaps of the downfall of the New Orleans Saints, if you're that into that kind of thing. Let's move on to the prized picks. So for those of you who don't know, PrizePicks is a game that I've been playing all week in previewing all of these games. You go pick a few of your favorite players and then whether they'll do more or less than their PrizePicks projection. For example, one of the ones that I've got today is Jordan Addison. PrizePicks has set his receiving yard amount at 48.5 receiving yards. Do you think he'll do more than that or less than that? You slam a bunch of those together and you get a PrizePicks play. I'll tell you more about the logistics of that and a promo code as well in a second, but for now, let's make some picks. And I am going to go with that Jordan Addison receiving yards box and less than. I'm sorry. Here's the deal. The Vikings offense is in a bad way right now, even though they're protecting, right? It's just passing offense has not been getting open the way that we need to, especially now with Justin Jefferson, right? Without Justin Jefferson. And we still don't have him for a couple more games now, at least. So I don't think that Jordan Addison, even if he is a more featured target, they just haven't gotten the ball to him. And what I noticed, at least on the Chicago tape, is that, he was open. Like, he was getting open. The concepts downfield were doing okay, but they weren't getting there for whatever reason, be it a pressure or some kind of timing issue or just, Cousins coming off the read for whatever reason. Just wasn't getting there. And I don't think that against the 49ers defense, which is a very good unit, this is not the week you figure it out. Like, this isn't the get-right game. The 49ers are too good for that. So I'm kind of just believing in the 49ers. Plus, they've got 2 of their 3 starting corners are close enough to 200 pounds where I'm getting a little worried about the physical coverage, and that's on the tape now, so you can be physical with Jordan Addison. It just doesn't feel like a Jordan Addison game to me. Might not be an anybody game. Might get real ugly, which is why I am going to give, I'm going to do a Greg Joseph one. Greg Joseph, 5.5 kicking points. PrizePicks is daily fantasy, so a lot of times they'll do like fantasy points or in terms of this kicking points, which is like field goals are 3 and extra points are 1, not the fantasy way where like longer field goals are. This is not fantasy points. This is just kicking points. So 2 field goals we get there, right? Or, a field goal and 3 extra points if the Vikings score a lot of touchdowns or something like that. That said, yeah, 2 field goals feels pretty good. This has not been a team that can run the ball. I mean, they have not scored a rushing touchdown yet this year. They haven't run the ball well in the red zone at all. The statistics on that are alarmingly bad. So a couple of field goals feels like something, and like their red zone has just not been that good. So while I'm sure the Vikings will be able to move the ball some way or another, they're not that bad where they'll just get totally stifled and get shut out, right? Punching it in ain't going to be easy. So 5.5 kicking points feels like a good more than. On the other side, the 49ers have been absolutely incredible at punching the ball in. And a lot of that has been their passing game doing well in that kind of, I think my old co-host from years and years ago, Joe Oberle, would call it the infrared zone, the 5-yard line and in. And taking what Brian Peacock told me yesterday on the crossover into account and the fact that they did very, very well against the blitzes that the Giants threw at them, which is a similar philosophy to the one the Vikings run. The 49ers offense was humming against the Giants in that primetime game. All of that puts together is, all right, this might be a Brock Purdy game, and 1.5 passing touchdowns feels like way too low of a number for PrizePicks to have set. So I'm going to also hit them more on that. You might catch that I'm not feeling fantastic about this game. I mean, I think the Vikings are pretty strong underdogs for a reason. And that reason is that the 49ers are really, really good. More detail on this will come on Monday when I have a more coherent sense for them. But just on the little bit of preliminary stuff that I've done so far, in particular their offensive line and how they pick up blitzes, it's just really good. They're not doing a lot of fancy stuff. Sometimes they'll go max protect, but they're not doing a lot of fancy stuff. And they're also not just collapsing the game into quick game in the way that so many other offenses do, in the way like the Chargers did, the Chiefs did, which is also a way that can work, but it's also what the Panthers and Bears did, and it didn't work, right? They aren't going to live in that world where it maybe works and maybe doesn't. They feel like they can pick them up, and they have been able to pick them up. So that concerns me quite a bit. How do we get pressure on Brock Purdy? Because they can actually just sort of meet us head on with that and not have to go with some Mickey Mouse bubble screens to try to back the Vikings off the blitz, which they will refuse to do. That said, whether or not the Vikings should blitz Brock Purdy is a more open-ended question than that, because backing off into coverage might be an even worse idea. I'll put a pin in that for now, but either way, I think Purdy's going to be able to hit. On the last one, I'm going to do Vikings defense. Jase Medical. They have his tackles plus assisted tackles, so combo tackles, set at 5.5. And looking at that, in the first 6 games, he's gone 8-6, 7-6, 9-6. He's never missed that. So it would have to be the lowest tackle total of his season so far. And I don't see that happening, if only because I think the 49ers are going to run a lot of plays. I think these tackle ones are really good plays to make here, because the Vikings force you to do 13, 14 play drives, and you can do a 14 play drive, but it's not going to be explosiveness. It's a lot harder to be correct on one of these if every drive it only lasts 2 plays, because you can get super explosive, right? That takes away opportunities for a tackle. But because there's so many tackles to go around, which is not a good thing for the sake of the defense, but for the sake of the PrizePicks play, it creates a certain amount of consistency. Eventually, you're just going to find 5 or 6 tackles and get there. And if this is a less than, it would be the first time for Jase Medical all year that he would be less than that amount. So that's 5 of them. You don't have to take them all. You don't have to take any of what I do, but you should head over to PrizePicks. And of course, the sponsor of today's episode is PrizePicks, daily fantasy made easy. You know how it works because I just spent a whole bunch of time talking about it. So how about we'll just talk about a few of those, for a few of the other things. For one, they now have Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account. You just go to prizepicks.com or download the app. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. We got a code there, LockedOnNFL, for a first deposit match up to $100. It is daily fantasy made easy. But as you kind of could tell, you don't have to put together a whole lineup with every single team trying to get the best fantasy lineup possible and with the budget and all that. That game has grown to be so boring to me. I can't stand it anymore. But this PrizePicks I have been having an absolute blast with. They also have the reboot policy where your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For NFL games and then top 25 college football matchups, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with injury insurance. It's awesome. So once again, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Today's episode is also brought to you by DoorDash. DoorDash is a necessity for me in the season. When I get very, very busy, it gets a lot harder to cook and a lot harder to, go out and get food or anything. I need something delivered to my door. I'm covering a game right now, and that can be the case for you as well. Get pizza delivered to your door for a party if you're having a watch party, or if you are making something and maybe you forgot an ingredient at the grocery store. Goodness knows, I have done this, and I have gone on to DoorDash and say, shoot, I need this vegetable or whatever. Can you just get it to me from the grocery store down the road? Absolutely no problem. Can get delivered right to your door. That level of convenience, absolutely unmatched, and I can help knock a little bit off of the price for you. You can get 50% off of up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter code LOCKED23. Subject to change, terms apply. Whatever you get, once again, that is 50% off, up to $10 in savings when you spend $15 or more on your first order. So download the DoorDash app, enter code LOCKED23, spend $15 or more, and enjoy that discount. Once again, that is subject to change and terms apply. It's time to get bold. It is time for the bold prediction segment. This is where I take your most deranged and unhinged predictions, the things that come from the darkest recesses of your mind, and if you get them right, I get punished. Let's go over the ones from week 6 and see if we got any. The first one comes from King Squeaks, who says that N'Keal Harry would lead all receivers in every stat. N'Keal Harry, I don't think, got a single touch, right? He did get some snaps, though. The next one came from Draw Play Dave, who actually got really close, who said that the game would feature back-to-back turnovers on subsequent plays. Got really close. He said both silly fumbles. I said I wasn't going to hold him to that. But we did have a stupid Kirk Cousins interception, and then 3 plays later, a very stupid Justin Fields interception, but it was not back-to-back plays, not quite. Malcolm Biggles said that DJ Moore would have more receiving yards than all Vikings receivers and tight ends combined. I do not think he even led the game. Oh no, I'm wrong. He did lead the game by 1 yard over TJ Hawkinson, who was the next most with 50. DJ Moore had 51. So didn't get there. Anthony Barraman said that the Vikings would blitz on 100% of defensive snaps. That one was a little bolder than I usually go with because it feels a little bit so far-fetched it's impossible, but I loved the spirit of it. Circuit City Planning Director said that Kirk would have the most rushing touchdowns. No rushing touchdowns for Kirk. And I think that honor went to Tyson Bagent, which would have been a great bold prediction. And then I said that I took one from Benjamin who said that Johnny Munt would have 2 goal line touchdowns. Didn't get any, but let's try again. We're not supposed to get any. It's bold predictions, not right predictions. The goal is not to be sensible. And that brings me to the first one. that comes from Chris, who said that no touchdown in the game will be scored by a player that started in week 1. So this one is both very unhinged because it essentially removes every superstar from the game, but it also is extremely difficult to track. So it's just really messed up in a couple of different ways. So what counts as a starter, right? So I'm not going to count like KJ Osborne, Josh Oliver, or CJ Ham. I'm not going to count Kyle Juszczyk, right? I feel like those players are like starters. But I'll listen to an argument on, say, Jawan Jennings. I don't think he's like a starter for the 49ers. Or for the Vikings, obviously Cam Akers, whether you think he's a starter or not, wasn't here week 1. Ken Nwangwu, same deal. Ty Chandler, I don't think you could call him a starter, right, if he gets in. So it kind of have to be those rushing touchdowns. Quarterbacks, I will say, only count for rushing and receiving touchdowns, like sneaks or trick plays. For San Francisco, I'll give you Elijah Mitchell, I think. He only got like 5 carries. I don't think you can call him a starter week 1. So kind of that sort of role player guy is what I'll give. If it comes down to like the second tight end on the 49ers or something like that, and if he counts, we'll revisit that. The missed kick said that Kirk Cousins will throw a pick 2 on a 2-point conversion attempt. Absolutely love the energy here. I have not thought about a pick 2 in years. I think the last pick 2, was it 2016 Eric Berry? The Chiefs against the Falcons? Was that the last pick 2 we saw? Was it the only pick 2 we saw? Because that was like a new rule back then. It's not been a rule for a very long time, and it's a very difficult thing to have happen. A pick 2 would be an incredibly funny thing to happen to Kirk Cousins on Monday Night Football, which of course they're going to make a huge thing out of Kirk on Monday Night Football, not able to win on Monday nights, all that crap. Kirk Cousins' primetime record where he's like 4-30 or whatever the heck it is. They're going to be talking about it a ton. So weird, funny Kirk things to happen get just a little bit funnier. The Spooky Skull Bus says that Madison hasn't had a single 20-yard play this entire year. This game, he will have 5, resulting in 100-plus combined yardage day. 5 is big, but the fact that you got to make 100 yards out of explosive plays is fantastic. I mean, look, Madison not generating explosive plays should not be a shock to anybody. Madison's style sacrifices explosiveness for the sake of consistency, which is like what makes him a starter over somebody like Ty Chandler, which is like, that's what has won him the job. That's what got him brought back, is that he has that consistency, and it's okay to give up explosiveness, because really when you're handing off on wide outside zone, you're not trying to house an 80-yarder. You're just trying to stay ahead of the chains, unless you have Adrian Peterson, right? And we went from Adrian Peterson to Dalvin Cook, who is also very explosive. I think we got maybe a little spoiled there. That said, all of the running backs, I think the starting running backs elsewhere in the league have at least like a couple times where they broke one off, but Madison's just not going to be that dude. It's kind of what we brought Cam Akers in for. There is a special teams one from Minnesota Sports Appreciator who says that Najee Thompson will have a touchdown on special teams. Now we're thinking creatively. He also had a question on Twitter Tuesday that I answered but cut out about Najee Thompson. He's doing fine. He's not doing... It was just like, how's Najee doing? It's fine. It's working. I think he's doing pretty good as a punt gunner. It's not the explosive, crazy like the stuff we saw in the preseason was insane. Obviously, the level of competition is higher now. He probably got some people cut doing that in the preseason. But he's doing well. Looks like he belongs on an NFL team at that job. I'll put it that way. David Rose says that we will get creditable reports. I think you mean credible reports by the end of the game that Danielle Hunter has been traded to the Jags for a first in-game trade. I won't hold you to the specific team or the compensation package. I think it would be absolutely insane to find out in the middle of a Monday Night Football game that a player playing in that game has been traded, because most of the time the front office won't be like, they'll be paying attention to the game. Like Kwesi watches the Vikings games. I think he's usually at them, right? I think he's always at them, right? He's been seen like on the sideline. So executing a trade from the sideline about a player who's like standing next to you would be the wildest thing in the entire world. Holy crap. How crazy would that be? The last one I'm going to do today comes from Jake Bieber. Any relation? who says receiving touchdowns only scored by tight ends. Oh, yeah, I'm going to have to hold you to all touchdowns here. I can't let you get away with one tight end touchdown and 2 running back touchdowns, and then like that's actually a fairly normal game. No. I need it to only be tight ends. And the reason Jake Bieber said this was that it makes sense. Both number 1 tight ends are Iowa, and it's a Gopher Hawkeye matchup on Saturday. So we need some tight end match. The real baller way to do this would say that only tight ends would score in the Gopher Hawkeye matchup as well, and then only tight ends would score in the Vikings 49ers matchups. That would have been the baller way to do it. I won't hold you to that because that's my version of it, not your version of it. But I will say that it has to be all touchdowns. Everybody have a good weekend. We will talk then. And as always, Skull.